Call this meeting in Macon County Board of Commissioners quarter. I'd like to welcome everybody. Glad you're here. We were just commenting between ourselves. We met so many times in April, May, and June, April and May, that we almost felt like we need to call each other and have a cookout or something somewhere. We hadn't met in a month, so it's been sort of that's been good or bad. I'm not sure which, but we've had a busy year. As far as announcements, do we have anything? Go around the table. Mike, do you have anything? Jack?
No, just a reminder that we have a joint meeting with the towns. Later this month, 26th, I believe.
You didn't say when or where?
It's going to be at the town hall. It's going to be at the 26th, Franklin Town Hall. We're going to have a sort of a social get together at 6:30 dinner. So it's served at 7.
That's on what day?
It's on July 26th.
No, we got a question on that. We got a meeting also scheduled out before that, right?
We did.
Okay.
Yes.
So how?
I think it's at 6:30.
Well, that must be a little glitch. Tell us about that. What was over there?
It's art.
I feel like Jesus now.
We'll have to discuss that privately. No, that means it's at 6.
Try walking on water.
And this was at 7.
I've done that.
Yeah, I'm not missing like
We can make both.
Okay.
And it is a Republican Party meeting. So let's do that.
No, I'm sorry, I can't make it. It's a free hamburger out there. If it's free from the Republican, I'll not come.
I told him I was going to come down to the Democratic Convention down there. They were selling hamburgers.
I didn't have no money that day.
We take both. Ron, you have anything?
Yeah, just a reminder to all the board that on August the 3rd, now the community meeting starts at 10 o'clock, but the entire board's invited to LBJ for lunch and a tour with the director and some other folks that will be there. If you want to come at 10, that's fine. That's when the community liaisons will be there, but anytime about 11:15 to 11:30. And they plan on feeding us lunch. I think everybody, Jimmy, you plan on coming?
Yeah, I'm going to come.
Yeah, good deal. We'll all be there. Good deals. I appreciate Ronnie's our liaison to LBJ, and I think this is the first year we've had that. That's right. Session has been very good. As far as announcements, you guys have anything more? Jimmy, Commissioner Pepper? Had just a very nice from Ravina Sheeler. I won't read it, but she retired, as you know, and I had to go out of town that afternoon, but I went by and visited her earlier, and I know some of you guys went by for her reception, and she wrote a very nice card thanking us for that and for her party and for the, I believe it was Michael Rogers Frank. So she was very appreciative of that. And also, I got a note from Dr. Dan Rigman. As you know, he's our superintendent that moved down to Catawba County, and he wrote us a very nice note commending our commissioners for working well with the school system, appreciate our efforts in this year's budget, et cetera, et cetera. So I pass that along to you publicly, and I have it here if you guys would like to read it. Okay. Any other announcements? It's always got to be careful when you recognize folks that have passed away, because you don't want to forget anybody, leave anybody out. So help me if I do that. But we've had seems like an unusually high number of folks who have a pretty close association with the county, either through boards or commissions or former county employees or county commissioners that have passed away in the last couple of weeks. It's been an interesting month. So I just want to say a word about Jack Cave. Of course, most of you knew Jack, and he served as county commissioner, I believe that was back in the 80s. Was it in the 90s?
He replaced Cecil Pondexter in 95. In 95. He was chairman from 95 to 96.
So Jack was a long-time public servant and also did serve as a county commissioner. He passed away in this past week. And also Liv Pearson, who was, I think, Jack, she was a receptionist. She was a long time and was Jack's sister. And she passed away this week, too.
On the day they were.
And then Most of you know Jane Kimsey. She's our social services director. Her mother, Miss Chancellor, passed away, and sort of sudden. She was doing pretty well up to about a week or so ago, and she passed. I believe that was today, about noon, 1 o'clock. And then also Jerry Sutton served many years, not only the Board of Education, but the County Commission, was chairman of the Board of Education, was the chairman of the commission too. And his wife Jean passed away suddenly, and so our thoughts and prayers go to that family. And then the last one I'll mention is Al Slagle, who we have recently reappointed to the planning board. And Al had a very sudden illness that took his life, and we'd like to recognize him. And Al was, he was our last meeting we had with him just a few weeks ago. None of us had any idea. So we're never promised tomorrow, but we want to recognize these folks and have a moment of silence as we remember them and reflect on that. So let's stand together. Have some moment of silence. I'm going to ask Commissioner Tucker to lead us in our pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, before you start, for those of you that might not have seen the obituary, they will be receiving friends for Ms. Jean Sutton Thursday evening, beginning at 5:30 at Macon Funeral Home. So I'm sure the family would appreciate it if you could come by. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We have advertised tonight a public hearing. This public hearing is for the Rural Operating Assistance Program, or ROAP, application. It's through Macon County Transit. So, Kim, do you need to share with us? So we'll.
You can go and call a public meeting or
I'll let you hear
comments.
Hearing is open. So you can go ahead.
She may want to give a brief overview of the purpose of it.
Yeah.
Actually try to be prepared for this and highlight stuff so I remember everything. The Rural Operating Assistance Program, or ROAP, is a state-funded public transportation grant program administered by the North Carolina Department of Transportation, Public Transportation Division, and includes the following programs: the Elderly and Disabled Transportation Assistance Program, the Employment Transportation Assistance Program, the Rural General Public Program, and additional funds subject to availability may be added to supplement these programs. ROAP funds and any additional funds supplementing the ROAP programs are allocated to each county by a formula. ROAP funds are to be used for the operating cost of trips or for other transportation services, but not for administrative capital costs. All eligible ROAP recipients must submit an annual application to receive ROAP funds. It is the intent of the program that these funds will be used to provide transportation when other funding sources are not available. As part of the application process, we are required to hold a public hearing for any input. Just for your information, allocation amounts for this year. For the Elderly Disabled Transportation Assistance Program, it's $59,339. For the Employment Transportation Assistance Program, it's $10,182. And the Rural General Public Program this year will be $63,853. That's a total of $133,874. Of those funds, the EdTap and the employment programs have no matching requirements. The Rural General Public Program will fund up to 90% of the cost of the program, and our 10% match comes from the freighter school charge for the passengers. That's an increase of $4,433 over last year's funding. And and this is the increase or the total amount? The increase is $4,433 over last year. Now, it moved around in the pot that it belongs in. There's more in the rural general public program and less in the EdTech program than there was last year, but nonetheless, the overall total cost, or the total allocation is still $4,400. We use primarily our funds for the EdTech program to do our out-of-county transportation. And right now, what we're using the whole pot of money for, as you'll recall, I had to have a public hearing a couple of years ago for the federal 5310 funds, which is federal elderly and disabled funds. And we use this money to match that in order to increase the amount of funds we get out. The employment funds, because in the last couple of years, a portion of it has been allocated out to DSS. They would use them for people who were like transitional workforce people who needed repairs to their cars. They would give them vouchers and things for that, and those are no longer allowed expenses. And then the general public is for anybody who is not able to fit under any of the other funding programs. And so we met with the advisory board, and the advisory board did recommend that the funds be allocated, all of the funds be allocated to the transit system. So that's what I'm asking.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Does anyone, Senator Davis, did you wish to speak to this, or?
No, sir.
Okay.
Kim, on the road, the DOT distributes these funds, correct?
Yes, they do. These are all state funds.
And how do you get it? At what, do you come in quarters, yearly?
They do them differently each year. They actually, I think the first allocation this year, and I'd have to just go through and,
What I'm asking him, do you have to put your budget money into this before it's reimbursed to you?
but no, they send this as an allocation, usually quarterly or in half year. So do we already start out with it? Yeah, because July 1, the funds were affected. So we start spending against it, but it's just a block allocation. We don't submit for
There's not like a
reimbursement.
6-month delay or anything like that. That would hurt you. I mean,
No. And fortunately, the budget, the county gives the allocation and then we put it back into the revenue center.
Okay.
Any other questions? Give me one.
And we did not have anyone sign up to speak to the public hearing. Let me ask one more time, is there anyone here that would like to speak to this issue before we check this up? Okay. Mr. Manager, we call the hearing closed. And we vote on that?
Consider the application made the public hearing. Let's go ahead and approve the application at this point.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the rural operating assistance program as outlined by the director and as shown in the resolution presented.
There was a second. Motion by Commissioner Beal, second by Hayden. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Under our public comment period, I want to recognize our state senator, Jim Davis is here. And Jim, we'd like to recognize you and have you say whatever you'd like to the group.
Thank you. I don't know if I was the only one to sign up. I'd be glad to go last, but if you want me now, that's fine. Thank you.
You were actually on the other sheet, that's why I thought you wanted to speak to the.
Oh, was I on the wrong sheet? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You had to tell that to all these people.
And they weren't near as worried as I was.
Legally, I guess I had to ask.
Yeah, Senator Bill Rabin and Kathy Harrington are both good friends of mine. They're on each side of my office, and so I have a connection. So if I can help you, but no, I wasn't going to try to subterfuge your budget. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be here. And the infamous words of Yogi Berra, it's deja vu all over again to be here. But it's, I'm delighted to be here. I just wanted to give you a little report. This is a culmination of promise that I made during the campaign that I was going to visit every county commission meeting, something that had never been done by any legislator while I was 10 years as a commissioner. So that was That's what you get for making fun of me. And so, anyway, this is the end. I saved the best to last to my home county, so that's why I'm here. And just want to give you a little bit of a report about how things went. We adjourned sine die about 3:30 or 3:45 last Tuesday morning. We finished up overriding the veto on the budget. We passed the budget. We're living within our means. And just we kept our promises with the budget by allowing the, is there a little kid here that can help?
I need some help.
Oh, we got an open jail cell.
And so we were able to do that. For those of you who were wondering, we gave the state employees, including the teachers, a 1.2% pay raise. We gave a COLA for retirees, a 1% increase. We're spending about $260 million more for education in this year's budget. You can also, if you read the newspaper, some of the comments where people will tell you that we're just devastating education. In reality, with state dollars, last year and this year we spent more state dollars for education than the previous 2 years. The total education budget obviously is down because the EduJobs money, $1.3 billion went away. And there's no way that we can supplant that, not live within our means. The economic health of the state isn't pretty good, but it's pretty good. But we still, our economy, our unemployment rate is about the 4th worst in the country, and so we feel like the economy is still tenuous here, and we kept our promise that we weren't going to raise taxes on people in order to do that. Revenue is actually up about 220 or 230 million in the state this year. Unfortunately, our Medicaid responsibilities we're over budget about 260 to 300. We really don't know yet, and so we have built in to the budget this year a buffer so that we can cover that and not go in the hole. We've made some changes to unemployment compensation. We owe the feds about $2.7 billion in money that we borrowed from them to pay unemployment compensation. We cannot change the benefits on unemployment until we pay that debt off, and so we're considering maybe even floating a bond in the next legislative session to pay that off so that we can change benefits again to get our budget under control. We've done a lot of things. Some people like them and some people don't, but we've kept our promises, and I'm proud of that. Plan to run on our record. We just finished the legislative session. It's time to campaign again. So I got too used to a 4-year cycle. We're running for county commissioner. But anyway, I'm honored to serve. It's been a steep learning curve, but I was very fortunate that the pro tem put me in a leadership position. I was co-chair of the appropriations on general government, which has 18 departments, some of which I didn't even know existed until I went to Raleigh. And so I share that with another Senate member and 2 House members. And also I'm the co-chair of the State and Local Government Committee, which was very dear to my heart. Having been a county commissioner, I share that with Mike Walters from down on the coast. And also the pro tem put me as the Senate chair of the Joint Legislative Committee on Local Government. So that's my emphasis, local government. You'd be delighted to know that the NCACC are great advocates for county commission in Raleigh. When I went down there, I had heard that the League of Municipalities was far better advocates for municipalities than the NCACC, and I'm here to tell you that that's not true. So you can be very proud of your organization. I've developed a close relationship with them. As a matter of fact, in some cases, I've even led them instead of having them push me. So I'm here to entertain any questions that you might have for me, but mainly hopefully you'll answer something that I know.
Well, as you said, Senator, we can't have everything. Of course, a lot of us have worked on mental health at this point that we have $20 million put back in mental health, but we understand that. And we were very disappointed that the last thing y'all did, thanks to the Senate, don't go into effect of October, was something we'd all worked very hard, was S-191 about the LME governments. If you don't know, that did pass at 3:28 that morning. And so, but the Senate came back and sort of changed the thing from the House, and thank you for that. And I know you got a hand in that. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. It don't go into effect really until October 13th. What that means to this county is that we went live with the Medicaid waiver last Sunday. And we all know that a lot of people in the state are watching Smoky Mountain. And I think we'll try to do the best to do that. But we hope that between now and October 13th that we would leave 4 counties in our catchment area without representation, depending on how they do it.
Due to the 21-member board over the 15 candidates. And that was a point of contention that I had. I promise you, I didn't care much for that.
So,
But
we appreciate it
that's
getting
evolving.
at the 13th, and maybe whatever shakes out by then. It does give us some time to see if, like Kevin could wear the 2 hats. Kevin is, I think, on this board, if you wear 2 hats, he could represent the insurance and the county commission. So, and we've looked at the other, but by next October, the board may be a little different too. So, but we thank, just a word of thanks to the Senate for doing it, and I know you have an hand in it. At least not implementing it right now, to give us time to catch up just a little bit, so.
well, I've been, that was another way that I could advocate for local government. I just think one of my reasons for wanting to go to Raleigh was that I had learned over the 10 years that I was here that we had a lot of responsibility, but we didn't have the accompanying authority. And I feel very passionately that there are a lot of talented people here in the local government that know what's best for their community.
And I think we should mention, Jimmy, I know you know Mr. Jordan, and he was tragically killed on July the 4th. He was the head of the mental health division of the North Carolina Association, North Carolina Health and Human Services. He was tragically killed on a bicycle. And he was a good guy. He had common sense.
Yep.
And we worked closely together, and so that was a blow to that division also.
Do you have any other questions or comments for Senator Davis?
Yeah, I'd like to make one to you, Senator. I know as much as us commissioners here work hard together to work on things and work with what we got, talk about living among our means. It's a time when we've got to try to get $1 worth of taxpayers' dollars. And we worked hard on it this year. We continue to, and I know you people at the state level, you're not the only one I talk to. It's hard to live among our means and get $1 worth of our tax dollar. And we thank y'all for that.
Well, thank you. I can tell you that there are a lot of really dedicated public servants down there, not only in the legislature, but also, the so-called bureaucrats, with the staff and stuff. There are a lot of them that do very well. Unfortunately, a few bad eggs, get all the press, just like we're, the Haywood DOT is sort of stirring things up with Beth Wood's audit of that program over there. So a few people get all the press, but there are a lot of great public servants that I've gotten to know. Like I said, I'm honored to be among them.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Jim, I'll just say about we're very fortunate to have the delegation we have representing this county. You guys are always responsive to us, and you guys know that we've lobbied them a lot to do things or not do things on behalf of the counties. And I'll have to say every time I've called you, you either answer your phone or you call me right back. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, it's 315 miles from here to Raleigh, and so I use that time to maximum benefit. I pick up my legislative assistant in Asheville, who is my sister, and so she's on the iPad, and she will say that Kevin Corbin wants to talk to you about so-and-so, and she'll dial the phone and hand it to me. Even got a call one time from a lady in Smoky Mountain News, I think, that wanted to know what I thought about a bill to ban mobile phone use in the car.
You were on your phone.
I just told her, you understand the irony here? And so I want you to know that I use it, a lot of Interstate 40, you can do it very safely, but when I'm going through, Durham, bypassing Durham or into Raleigh or Winston-Salem and those high-density situations, I don't use the phone. So, but there are a lot of places where you can.
Chairman, I appreciate Senator Davis, these couple true to his word. When something comes up in the General Assembly that he is going to have to be the vote or comment on it one way or the other, he has never failed to contact us here on the local level, whatever department is affected by that particular legislation that's being proposed, to get some input from the people in the
thank you. It's very kind of you to say, but frankly, you'd be a fool not to use the resources that we have on the county level. And so I wouldn't want to be in that class. But I'm just fortunate that I got, in my tenure here, I got to know some really excellent department heads, county managers and commissioners that I can use them as a resource. And before I'm done, I would just want to tell you that even though I'm a strong advocate for local government, and as all of you know, especially ones that have served with me, I have definite opinions and stuff. I'm subject to change with more research, but you need to know in Raleigh, it's a lot different than right here. There are a lot of moving parts down there, and you can work really hard to get something done in the Senate, and then it gets gutted in the House, and then you have a conference report, and so you have to really watch what's going on and help, have lobbyists and staff members and other people to help you watch NCACC to help how these things come down. So we did some good things for county government. So I'm proud of that. But anyway, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thank you for your service. A lot of people don't know how many hours you guys put in, but I know. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
And
Senator.
with your permission, I'm going home. I haven't been home all day.
I talked to you. Thank you, Senator. Welcome back.
All right.
We have Philip Cochran, Watson Contract. Mr. Cochran, welcome. He was going to speak about the Macon County Airport apron project. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you this afternoon. As many of you know, during the month of June, the Macon County Airport Authority solicited bids for redoing the aprons at the airport. The bids were with two options. Option one to tear out the existing aprons and replace them with asphalt. Option two was to tear it out and replace it with all concrete. During the pre-bid meeting, it was asked how the contract would be awarded, and the engineer said that he would do a cost analysis report after the bids were received and base his recommendations upon that. When the bids were received, Watson Contracting, a local contractor here in Macon County that employs local contractors, was low on option one, the asphalt paving. On option number two, the concrete paving, Taylor Murphy Construction out of Asheville, North Carolina, was low. Watson Contracting happened to be the second bidder on that project and less than 1% above Taylor Murphy, but obviously they were second, they were not the low bidder. On June the 21st, I had a phone conversation with the engineer for the project, who informed me that the board had decided to award the contract on asphalt, although they wanted to do a little bit of concrete work there at the airport. Today I spoke with him this morning, and he informed me that there had been a little bit of a change, and it appeared they were going to award on concrete. So I attended a continuation meeting of the airport authority this afternoon when they were to make a vote on which way they were to go. The engineer gave a cost analysis report for the project over a 30-year period. He said based on the cost that awarding it on concrete option would save $86,000 and some change over a 30-year period. That being said, the concrete option costs more initially, but the low bidder is an out-of-county contractor, and all of the jobs just about will go out of the county except a few that will be created here locally. Had they awarded the project on the option number one, the asphalt paving, which was cheaper, it would have kept everything here local just about as far as jobs, and possibly could have created as many as 100 jobs during the life of that project right here in Macon County. My question is, over one man's opinion, in saving $86,000 over a 30-year period, is that worth losing the jobs here to the local county level, and people that live here in Macon County, pay taxes here in Macon County, a lot of subcontract truck drivers that buy fuel here in Macon County, and we'll be doing that project on the local level. I serve as a pastor, and as a pastor I understand the struggle people have in this economy. I have many church members that are out of jobs, and I would have loved to have seen this project stayed in Macon County, that it could have created jobs for local people. I understand that the board is a standalone entity. I assume they're appointed by the commissioners. I do not know that for a fact, but I'm concerned that they're not taking into consideration the thoughts and the welfare of the people of Macon County in their decisions. They base their judgment on one engineer's recommendation that it would save $80,000 over a 30-year period, which he referred that to the Department of Transportation and Department of Aviation, and they advised that they would like to see it awarded on concrete. I understand that point from the department wanting to award it on concrete, seeing that there is savings over a 30-year period. I would feel that those jobs it would create here and the local revenue by keeping it with a contractor in Macon County would far outweigh $86,000 worth of savings over a 30-year period. Now, I understand y'all probably, the decision's done, there's probably nothing to be done about that. I do have a problem with one in particular member of the board that made a comment during the meeting that basically that board was there just to approve what the state wanted them to do. If that is the case, why do we have a board locally if they cannot make no decision upon their own, if all they can do is follow what the state's recommendation is? I do appreciate the commissioners for standing up. Mr. Bobby Cuppers represented y'all at that meeting, and he spoke very bluntly that it's always been the policy of Macon County, if we're funding a project or assisting in the funding, to do everything legally and ethically to keep it within Macon County. And I appreciate his efforts in the meeting. But the fact is, legally and ethically, it could have been awarded on a paving option and kept all of the work in Macon County. Now, saying that there's nothing that could be done, there is something that could be done. I understand it probably won't happen. But this Board of Commissioners could vote to refuse to fund the $200,000 or more that you're putting toward that project because it's going out to another county. The contract will be out of county and not create any jobs here. I don't want to see that happen, obviously. You know, I'm not that kind of businessman, but it does hurt to see a person as a low bidder and being creating jobs on the county level not be awarded a project go to a higher option for a savings that's going to be over 30 years. Who knows what's going to happen in 30 years? A lot of things can change in 30 years. And that's a lot of people that unfortunately could join the unemployment list here in Macon County because the local contractor wasn't awarded that job being the low bidder. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Okay. Appreciate your comments, and I will say that Commissioner Pepper did speak to this board because we, in earlier meetings, we did say and have said that we prefer that jobs go locally whenever possible. And I think I haven't had a chance to talk to them.
That's exactly right.
Since the meeting, but I'm sure he spoke on our behalf. Okay. But to let you know, the Airport Authority is a separate entity from this group. It is appointed by the county commissioners, but the difference in an authority and a commission is an authority can enter into contracts, they can receive bids, that kind of thing. If they're not, then the commissioners actually have to approve that. But they do have that authority, since they are an airport authority, have been for sometimes several years. Chester, you know. So this before, yeah, a while. So that's the reason they have the authority to do that. I don't know, Bobby, if you want to address that or.
No, I mean, without rehashing 2.5 of those, or an hour of the most uncomfortable time of my life. In fairness to both sides, and there are always two sides. And in fairness to both sides, I made the argument on behalf of this board, and I believe that argument, and I did the best I could. That being said, I can also go to the other side of the ledger and say that I think it was more than just the engineer. I think the state opinion, their concurrence saying, hey, we would like you to get to award the contract option, I think swayed the members of the authority. They're going to have to deal with those people for grants for a long time to come. I can't get inside their head, nor should I try, and that would be inappropriate. But I just would like to say there are two sides. I felt like the board tried, the authority tried every way they could to wiggle. It wasn't there for them to do if I look at their side. But I stand by what I said. I stand by it then. I stand by it now. We'd love to keep it all here. It's one of those days I just do not go through. It's a tough situation.
Well, we have worked hard on that, as many of this board knows, and we're disappointed that this is not going to be local money. This board, and that's true. We met as a school board liaison. Chairman Corbin can tell you, and before him, the senator here is when he and I was on the school board. you know, we've worked hard as a management team with these school people, that's building these schools, even though there's nobody here locally that was bidding it. But we went to them and sat down with them and said, listen, we need all the local, and they have done that. And, to tell you the truth, I'm disappointed that this is leaving Macon County. I don't think there's no reason it should be leaving Macon County. What's in the future, bonds, what's gonna come down the pike, you know, and I've read the 30-year plan that you're talking about. I believe this bid should stay in Macon County, that's what I've always said. And if it comes down to giving Macon County people work compared to whatever, and you're the low bidder on something that's a really good reason, they should be given an opportunity. And I'll certainly go in the record to say it, and express my disappointment.
Yeah, I didn't attend that meeting, but I would like to read to see what it is here. That the difference now, you run the paving company?
No, sir.
They were great.
We're a highway contractor. We do grading, paving with subcontracted.
You all did the runway extension, did you not?
No, sir. We bid on the runway extension, but we did not do that.
You're locally here, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's locally owned, operated right here out of Franklin. And unfortunately, you know, because the economic times have been so difficult, we have a crew in here from Franklin that leave every Monday morning at 4 o'clock and drive 180 miles to Ashe County to work, leaving their families at home. And to be low bidder on an auction here at home, it hurts to tell husbands that they have to tell their wives they're going to have to keep working out of town because wasn't awarded a contract here in our home county.
Well, like I said, we haven't seen that one. We haven't gotten the information, obviously, just happened today.
Now, one thing that was brought to my attention by Mr. Horton some time back, and it's something this board needs to look into. He informed me that there's a state law that if a contract is within less than 1% of an out-of-state contractor and an in-state contractor, the state can choose to award the contract to the in-state local contractor. If that is a state law, that law should trickle down to all forms of government within that state, or the county should have that option to do that, and that's something I'd like to see this board pursue for the future. That being said, last year in 2011, we were not able to bid a project in Jackson County for Jackson County Parks and Recreation. Reason being, Jackson County called local contractors and invited them to a mandatory pre-bid and did not open it to the public or have it publicly advertised. And any contractor that didn't attend the mandatory pre-bid was not eligible to bid on the project. And how they advertised was they called about 6 contractors in Jackson County. That hurts when Jackson County contractors come in Macon County or vice versa, any county, that counties are doing that. I'm not asking this board to ever do something like that because I think it's unethical. But it is something that should be pointed out in the future to other situations.
Well, I wasn't going to do anything on that, believe it. As I say, it's just reported that I hadn't read it. And I'm like Commissioner Beal right here. I hate to see the job really good we can use. And we've not got to make a decision on this tonight, have we?
We don't have no decision. It's been made.
The only decision y'all could choose is you would choose to defund the project, which we're not asking you to do because I don't feel that'd be the right thing to do to the airport authority. But I would consider that the people you appoint to that authority, that they should be concerned about the welfare of Macon County citizens and Macon County jobs. That being said, there is a member of that committee that is on salary, I believe, at $5,000 per month by this county to create jobs, or look for ways, avenues to create jobs in Macon County. And to see that gentleman make a vote to send those jobs out of Macon County hurts me as a Macon County taxpayer. That's upsetting to know that he is paid to bring jobs to Macon County and voted along with the rest of the board to send the work to Macon County.
Yes, so less than, you said 1%, so less than a 1% difference in this bid?
There's
On
less than
option
1%
two,
difference on option 2 concrete. That's, I'm still not done asking that question.
Yeah, I want to ask some too.
That right there.
I appreciate you bringing it up, just like you heard what I said to Senator Davis out here. This board, we're trying to work hard to give taxpayers $1 worth of whatever we're spending money for, $1 for taxpayers.
Yeah, and our point on things, listen, if we're not low bidder, we don't want the job, okay? I understand the ethics of contracting, been contracting for 16, 17 years. So we were low bidder on option 2. And I wouldn't ask this board to award us it on the concrete option because we weren't the low bidder. And I wouldn't feel that would be fair to the other company. And I wouldn't want to be done that way if the shoe was on the other foot. But they did have the opportunity to award it on the paving option, which would have created jobs at the rock quarry, would have created jobs at Rhodes Brothers Asphalt Paving, would have created jobs here. But going to the concrete option, that company's from out of town that would be doing all of that work. The only revenue that would really stay in is some material sales to local vendors and the concrete sales to Southern Concrete, which employs a few Macon County employees, but they're owned by somebody outside of Macon County.
Appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you, Mr. Todd.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. That was some folks we had for public comment. Any, item number 7 is adjustments and the approval of the balance of the agenda. Do we have anything that needs to be added, changed, or removed from the agenda?
I do have a proposed amendment, finance director has concerning all of the school.
Correct. That took me to number 11, which was evened out.
Did everybody get a copy of that?
Chairman, I've got just one item of the report, regarding county board.
Okay, go ahead there.
Back where you can bring those exemption resolutions to the board's attention. The exemption, architectural and engineering services.
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, what county attorney talked about, under item 9, under old business discussion regarding pool renovations.
Yes.
We would like to ask the board to consider waiving the requirement for formal request for professional architectural engineering services for those two items that the board authorized in May for us to proceed on.
Yes.
And so I've asked the county attorney to prepare 2 resolutions, both of these contracts for the design and management and construction observation of both of these projects, the pool house and the pool itself. Each one of those are under the statutory limit of $30,000. So we have qualified folks who can do that. And so we ask the board to consider waiving that. Let's go ahead and enter into a contract for design and construction observation services, so we can get that project hopefully started.
And that's
We're able to
9A. Yeah. Okay.
For funds and the key.
Right.
All right. Anything else need to be added or changed? If not, I would entertain a motion that we approve the balance of the agenda as presented with those changes. Second. Motion by Pepper, second by Beal. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We have, give a little background for those that I think most of you know this. Back last year, sometime, I think it started with Sheriff Holland. We talked about his department. Some of his deputies were underpaid by a good bit compared to surrounding agencies, surrounding counties. And we did recognize that and did move in the direction of correcting that. As part of that discussion, we came to the conclusion that there hadn't been a pay study done in Macon County since 2001. So it's been over a decade since a pay study was done. And what that is, and these folks are going to explain that, is to go through and look at how our folks are being compensated compared to other folks doing similar jobs in other places, similar locations, populations, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a fairly complicated process, and we decided to pursue that. And we contracted with Springstead Incorporated, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And asked these guys to do it. It's been a number of months ago, and they may have this report ready. Let me say before we get into it that my guess is what we're going to do is receive this report, and then we'll have to decide what to do with it. Instructor, county manager, human resources officer. I think we're going to find that some of our positions are underpaid, and we'll have to decide how to go about that. Understand that we are, as Mr. Cochran eloquently pointed out, we're in the middle of a recession. I think it's a depression, but that's another opinion. But we'll have to be careful with how we proceed with anything. But we didn't feel like we had adequate information to make any kind of pay adjustments of any kind because a study hadn't been done in over a decade. So that's how we came to this point. Anything to add to that?
I think you pretty well covered it, and we've asked this company, Springstead, to do the research and tell us where we were as far as what are most comparable pay for comparable jobs. And I think Ms. Mancini was here along with his assistant Stephanie to present the report to the board. And I would think that probably Mr. Chairman, after the board has a chance to take a look at the report, that perhaps in the near future we can schedule a work session with the board to go into more detail over that at that time. But I think it would be appropriate then if you have Springstead to officially present their report.
Well, we've asked them to give us a presentation. I think they have it about the screens. So John Enzavino, is that right? First shot. And Stephanie Davis. That's a little easier. We'd like to welcome them from Springstead Incorporated, and they're going to give us their report at this time.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Horton, Mr. Decker, it's our pleasure to be here this evening to provide you the findings of our efforts in conjunction with your classification compensation study. I want to pass on one thing to you. We had a team of people work on this project. We interviewed all of your department heads, and I had one of our other folks from one of our other offices here, and he interviewed a couple of your department heads. He's a former deputy city manager of Spokane, Washington. He's also a former mayor. He's a civil engineer. He's a very creative individual, a very bright guy. But he told me at the end of his interviews with your department heads, he kind of shook his head and he said, wow, that's an organization that has some really good people, and they really are focused on getting a good job done for the citizens of that community. And I wanted to pass that on to you because you don't often hear that. As a board, not a former county manager up in Virginia, but as a board, you often hear some of the things that have gone wrong. And to get an impartial third-party opinion like that, I think is of value to you because it's important for you to know that other people outside the community can observe it. I would like to move through the presentation fairly quickly this evening. We have been working on this project for a number of months, as you know. This has been an interactive process. We have worked with your staff very closely. And it is not just our input, it has been their input as well to make sure that we get this correct. There are several objectives that we were assigned in completing this report. First of all, to take a look at the external competitiveness of your salary ranges as they existed from your 10-year-old study as they've been updated, and the wages as they compare to the market. And what we've done is we've looked at other jurisdictions which are market comparable, that we have talked to your staff about, and we've provided that analysis of your competitiveness. We were also asked to review the county's current compensation policies and practices. That is, how do you hire people into a range? How do you move them through a range? How do you adjust your ranges? Because this is a document that some folks think, well, it's done, but it's a living, breathing document. As the market changes, it needs to shift. We were also asked to establish internal equity between positions. And what we mean by that is we need to look at positions that have like requirements for education and experience, physical demands on the position, the level of work, complexity of work, to see if they're comparable with sure that they're being paid equitably. And our whole process was founded on a case down in Georgia, in the county, where pay equity was not particularly paid attention to. We were also tasked with ensuring that your job descriptions were updated and they comply with applicable laws and regulations. The Fair Labor Standards Act, which relates to overtime, equal employment opportunity requirements, and the American with Disabilities Act, which require physical demands. And so we've looked at all of your job descriptions and evaluated those. We were tasked with providing you with a program which provides for ongoing administration and maintenance of the pay plan by county staff. And we have met with your county staff, and we will be coming back to train once the study has been adopted by the board, so that when you have new positions or when you blend positions together, which has happened a lot over the last few years because of loss of revenue from local governments that need to continue to service, you need to reclassify those positions. So rather than having us do it, we're going to train your staff on how to do it, and they'll be able to do it, and there won't be any expense to the county. We were also tasked with updating the county's current classification system and the ranges, as we talked about, to make sure that they were competitive in the marketplace. That is, when you have vacancies that occur, that you're able to compete in the marketplace and hire the best qualified people. And then we touched on the exempt, non-exempt status of the positions under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Stephanie is going to run through some terminology very quickly, because there are a number of issues here that, since you haven't done this in 10 years, you may not be familiar with.
Just a few things, again, just to generally go through some of the definitions that we talk about during our presentation. Compression. Pay compression is the situation that occurs when there's a small difference in pay with similar type positions. And this is when you have somebody potentially, and I'll use this as an example, a custodian with maybe 2 years of service, 2 years with Macon County, versus somebody with 10 years, and their salaries are very compressed together because the range is not new. So that's one issue we found during your study, one issue we tried to address in your study. Job class, a grouping of jobs that's considered to be substantially similar for pay purposes, again, classifying positions within the same ranges, more than one. Position descriptions, we've updated and provided you with brand new, consistent, ADA compliant position descriptions for each of your positions here in Macon County. Those new descriptions were developed from information provided from your employees. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Classification is simply assigning positions to appropriate job classes, and you will maintain a classification plan for your employees. Job evaluation is a process that we use, and we use a tool to conduct the job evaluation and position analysis questionnaire, a PAQ, and that really is a tool that we use for your employees to assess the knowledge, skills, abilities, minimum level of education experience, and the duties that they're doing within their positions. So that provides us with a tool for job evaluation. And internal equity, again, the premise of the study is to ensure that we have internal equity among positions in terms of classification and compensation. And your pay philosophy, part of what we hope to achieve in our study is to provide you with ways to develop a pay philosophy which defines the importance of internal equity and providing you with a plan that is equitable internally and externally to the market, addresses employee performance, and establishes a system for compensation administration, and we talked about that as well. Once we provide you with your plans, how does that continue to stay updated over the next few years?
I'm a little confused. It's a little bit over my pay grade.
You are fine.
So where is the report at?
We're going to go through the contents of the report and provide that.
This is not the report.
This is a summary of the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have the report.
Okay. The report we have, let me say what happened. As you know, Richmond got hit by a number of different thunderstorms. We lost power and it damaged our server. And what we printed off was what we expected to print off as our final report. What our server gave us was a report which is not the final report. We found that out today. The report is being printed tomorrow morning. We will have it Thursday. We apologize.
Oh, okay.
But the presentation is providing you with the summary of it.
So this is the outline of it.
That
Yes,
is
sir.
correct. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we talk about the key points in the presentation, the midpoint is defined as the middle point between your pay grades, between your minimum and your maximum. Your midpoint also reflects the market, so you will hear us talk about market pay and the midpoint of those ranges. And then progression of your pay grades. As we talk about administration of your new plan, we also want to talk about how do we have employees move through the pay system consistently and equitably in order to maintain that separation in terms of tenure and to decrease compression issues.
Now, how did we come to our final recommendations, which will be provided in just a minute? As I said, this is an employee intensive process. We first met with your county manager, your human resources manager, and your department heads. We interviewed each of your department heads. We obtained their organizational charts. We talked to them about where there were problems in recruiting staff and retaining staff, what changes they anticipated in the future as far as staff coming and going or retiring, so that we understood the nature of your organization. And so we need to know that because every organization is different. We also held 16 employee orientation meetings where we explained the process that we were going to be going through to your employees. And the first thing we always find when we do one of these studies is when we come in and say, we're going to do a classification compensation study, everybody says we're going to get more money. It's not necessarily the case. So we try to set the stage that we don't know because we haven't gathered the data. We don't want to raise their expectations and have that create a problem for you folks as county commissioners. So we were very clear on that. But we also discussed the how to fill out the position analysis questionnaire, how their supervisors would be involved in reviewing the work, and what this all meant and how it all came together. We collected a large amount of data, your personnel policies, your current job description, your pay plan. We prepared draft position descriptions, new position descriptions to reflect the new duties of the employees. And those were reviewed by the department, by the human resources manager. We conducted about 70 job audits to where we needed more information on positions. And we put all of that together into the final position descriptions, which are now accurate, up to date, and federally compliant. You will receive those electronically as well as in hard copy. From there, we obtained market and salary data with jurisdictions we'll get to the heart of in just a moment, but those were approved by the county as comparable jurisdictions. And we did an extensive survey of over 70 positions to get that market data, as well as to find out what the benefits were being paid in other jurisdictions. As that information was obtained, we entered it into our formulas. We developed a salary line, and we began to evaluate the positions and looked at how the salary line and the jobs fit together to make sure that we were on target. We assigned the positions to new pay grades, and then we looked at what the cost would be, which is always typically what we get asked first, is what is the impact? Stephanie?
As we have finalized the study and finalized your plans, there were a number of findings that we found. The minimums, midpoints, and maximum salary levels as identified in your current pay plan are significantly below market. On average, your minimums, your midpoints, and your maximums are 21% below the market. Okay? That is significant. Internal pay relationship inequities exist within the county. Again, looking at your compensation and classification plans, making sure that positions with like skills and abilities are paid comparably, and the compression is identified and dealt with. We've completed that step. The current pay scale is in need of some restructuring. Macon County has done a good job. We have an open range system. We maintain that open range system. We have 32 pay grades. We maintain that 32 pay grades. But we also have looked at moving to a 5% differential between your different pay grades. So there's a 5%. But we've also moved your minimums, your midpoints, and your maximums on average 22 to 23% based on that market survey data.
Does the 21% include the insurance and benefits and 401k?
No, sir, that is just salaries. We do have a whole separate section on fringe benefits that we'll talk about at the end.
It's not in the 21%.
That's correct. It is simply salary comparison. And we take one position here in Macon County and compare it with our other.
Did you compare benefits when you compare salary?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And Ms. Beal, that 21% doesn't mean that everybody's 21% below. It means your grades below, where they fall within the assigned ranges. The impacts are still significant for the county, which we'll get to in a minute, but it's not 21% of current total salary.
You're trying to keep up back now.
Great
Keep
question.
up back now.
I appreciate you asking those. You're probably not the only one. Policies, additional findings, policies regarding the update of the plan should be evaluated. Again, we want to see you in a position where you're not updating your plan every 10 years. We want to see you looking at it at least annually, maybe on some positions, and every 5 to 7 years to complete update, and other policies. Many job consolidations here in Macon, similar to other jurisdictions that we work with, given the economy, given the lack of revenue, reduction in force, those types of things, have resulted in additional functions being added to employee job duties. As you know, people are taking on additional job duties with the loss of new positions. So we have incorporated those types of things into the job descriptions and into the titles and classification. We talked at the beginning about pay philosophy. We have built a study and we'll provide you with a report that provides fair and equitable compensation to employees that balances the external market, that means who we work with in terms of benchmarks, and internal equity, making sure that like positions are paid similarly. We've maintained a competitive pay structure. You just heard, on average, your pay ranges are 20% off, so we have adjusted those pay ranges accordingly. Performance-based component for individual employee compensation, thinking about how you reward employees in terms of merit increases, pay for performance, those kinds of things. And we've talked about that as part of our study. And the most important thing is develop an understandable compensation program. If your employees don't understand how they're being paid, they're not going to trust the system. They just aren't. So we hope to provide you with a very simple way that employees understand where their position falls and how that position is being paid.
And also a system that looks like the previous system, although it's updated.
Let's talk about salary survey in our benchmark communities. And we worked with your staff to develop this list. We surveyed 13 municipalities, 11 counties, and 2 cities. We've received responses from 10 of those 13. That represents a 77% response rate. That is significant. We were very pleased. We were very pleased with the responses that we had and the amount of data that we had for our positions. You can see the ones who responded to the survey are noted. When we send out our salary survey, we don't just list the title. We provide the title and a description of the position, because some municipalities may title something differently, but when they see the description, they say, wait a minute, that's our accounts payable, or that's our accounts receivable person. So we try to make sure that the survey is complete and provides a lot of information so that we get good information back. We benchmarked 79 of your positions. That was a very good sample of the positions here in Macon County. We used data from 67 of those surveyed. So 67 positions, that data we used. We did not use 12 positions. The data that came from 12 positions, it was either inconsistent, maybe a very high salary, very low salary, or else there weren't enough responses. We typically like to have a good number of responses from your survey benchmarks. We didn't have enough, then we wouldn't use that data. So we used the data for 67 of those positions. Of that data and of your positions, 60 positions have ranges below the market. So think about the 21% on average below market, your salary ranges, and you have of your 79, 60 positions were below the salary average. Questions?
So the ones that weren't below, that means they were above or in the range?
In the range, and we note that in the range being either 5% below or 5% above the average. Anything above 5% is above average, and anything below is more than 5%. So 60 of your positions were more than 5% below the average.
And so like Jackson County,
No, we called folks, so
they're probably, I know all those counties, those are all, larger counties and municipalities than we are. Jackson would be the best comparison.
And we do a number of reaching out, emails, phone calls, and that sort of thing. And honestly, many jurisdictions are very swamped, just like Macon County is. We are very pleased with our response rate. And the data we have.
Does that affect how large the county, for example, the city of Hendersonville is probably bigger than Franklin, and all those counties are larger than Macon. Does that make a
Not
difference?
necessarily, no. For example, Burke County, their pay, we've done an organizational assessment of their organization. Their pay is much lower than the market. They haven't had a study done for a number of years.
Really?
Yes. So you may look at some of these communities as being larger, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll pay more.
So you don't see Mecklenburg doesn't necessarily pay more than Clay County does?
Well, Mecklenburg would pay more because of the demographics of the area, because of where they are.
Right.
But Clay County, probably would not. And we work with a lot of jurisdictions, smaller jurisdictions butted up against very large metropolitan jurisdictions. And there's always that concern for the elected officials that, gee, that large jurisdiction is going to skew the results. And it impacts it a slight amount, but not greatly, because if you look at the number of responses that you have, 10 on 13, those jurisdictions it all blends together. Those are good questions.
Burke and Watauga are probably the most county, my guess, but the others are substantially larger.
Transylvania's about the same size, a little bit larger.
Is it about?
Transylvania's doing the most.
Okay.
Yes.
Of all those you got that you responded, they're pretty big. The rest of it,
Does the number of total employees per respondent how do you put that in? We have, three, and I'm sure that you go to Burke County, they probably got 550. They 562. In Pearson County, how does the number?
We look at the number of.
Does he look at positions to the number?
We look at the position, and we look at the pay grade. Okay, we also look at the hours worked, because there are different hours of work weeks. Some work 37 and a half, some work 40. We actually run into some jurisdictions that work 35. And so we adjust for that to Macon County, so that we're sure that we're on the same basis of comparison. The number of employees doesn't necessarily affect it, because we're looking at the pay range and we're looking at the market versus looking at the number of employees.
Okay. Thank you.
Thinking about the salary survey results and your pay scale comparisons, the county's proposed pay scale, that will be on the next slide. It's been developed utilizing the respondent survey data and maintains the county's current structure of an open range system, maintains the county's existing pay band spread of 50%. That means between your minimum and your maximum, there's a 50% spread, and 5% between the 32 pay grades. Reflects a 23% increase in the minimum of the grades, a 23%, I'm rounding, increase in the midpoint of the grades, and a 24% increase in the maximum grades. Again, representative of the survey data that we've received from those different jurisdictions. And we do provide complete survey data in this study. This is your proposed pay scale. Again, going from grade 17 to grade 48, and you can see the different ranges and how that is set out.
Okay. Now, as we began to assign positions to the pay grades, we used a system called the SAFE system. It stands for Systematic Analysis Factor Evaluation. And that is a system that was developed for Houston County, Georgia, about 20 years ago, pay equity suit. And we look at the 9 factors that you see on the screen. We evaluate each position, not the person in the position, but the position based upon those 9 factors. And we have point ranges, we add up the points, and then we see where the positions lay out from minimum to maximum pay or number of points. And if we see maybe a recreation attendant is up next to the human resources manager as far as points go, we figure we have a problem there because those positions should be very different. So we look at those points, but they give us a very good spread of where the positions lay in relationship to one another. They also play into how the proposed salary curve, which is a check for us to make sure that the salary survey data that we have is falling in harmony with the SAFE system. So the line that you see there, that's called the line of best fit. Those positions are the positions, the midpoints of the position of the average salaries of the positions that we have in Macon County, based upon the points that we have in conjunction with the SAFE system fitting next to that line. And you'll see in that little box in the upper left on the proposed salary curve where R2 equals 0.9748. That means we've got a 97% fit on the salary curve, which is very good. Typically, we have between 92 and 98. If we go below 92, we have some problems with the data, and probably nobody ever hits 100. So you're at about 97%. So we feel very comfortable with the data that we've gathered and the assignment positions and the rank of hierarchy in relationship with the SAFE system. Now, what does all that mean? Well, it means that there's a cost assigned to what may need to be done here in Macon County, and only you as the board can determine that. But Stephanie's going to run through a few options that we developed in concert with your staff.
When we look at your employees and moving them to the new pay range, the first option is moving employees to the minimum of the new pay ranges. Based on our data, we have 327 staff members in Macon County. 181 of those employees are paid below the minimum, so this option would affect 55% of your employees or 181 positions. The annual cost to do that, including benefits, is $613,236, or 4.61% of your total salaries. This increases your market comparability because we are moving the employees to the minimum grade. I do want to note for the commission that we've worked with your finance director. We have adjusted our numbers for our housing grant positions because that would not be impacted with your general fund. Your solid waste positions, they're an enterprise fund, so they're separate and apart from the general fund. And then we've also adjusted the numbers for social services contribution of 62%, assuming some level of contribution from the state. So those numbers are in here. And again, this does include your benefits, your retirement system, those types of things. Okay, so that is option one, and that's shown annually. Option two was to provide a minimum of a 2% increase for all employees. This would affect 99% of your employees. It's going to affect 325 of your 327 employees. We have two positions that are paid above the maximum of the ranges. This provides a minimum level of funding to address compression issues. Remember how we talked at the beginning about compression? Employees with less tenure making almost as much as somebody with more tenure. We want to try and spread them out on the pay range. So this would provide the minimum adjustments, move everybody to minimum, and then move people with a 2% increase. Annual cost, including benefits, is $754,000, or 5.66% of salaries. Again, include your adjustments to minimums, because that's like the basic package, and then increases market profitability.
Okay, so that's really a two-step thing.
That's correct.
All right,
Yes, sir.
you blew by me there.
That's okay. I appreciate you.
So you're going to take everybody to minimum and then bump everybody.
Move the minimum and into.
I was
That's
trying to
correct.
figure out if all you did was give everybody 2%, how that took care of compression.
Nope. The
That's
first
when my
thing-
brain went open circuit.
Great. The first thing we're going to do is move them to minimum, and all your options will include that.
We used to drive a soda.
Yeah, I thought they compressed most of my life.
Okay, let's talk about option 3, years of service adjustment. This option fully addresses your compression issues. What this does is
I
look
bet it does.
this option.
You take unemployment into consideration when you done this. People will be lined out the door
Yeah.
if somebody left, you know.
Yes, sir. This option provides your adjustments to minimum, and then it looks to move employees based on years of service through the range. And this option is providing 0.5% for each year of service. So an employee with 8 years of service would obviously get a 4% increase. So you would move employees to minimum and then move them throughout the range. It fully addresses compression issues. 100% of your employees are impacted. Annual cost, including benefits, at $1.1 million or 8.47% of salaries. Again, includes your adjustments to minimum and could be phased in over a multi-year period. One of the things we've been doing over the past probably 2 months is working with your staff, your finance staff, your HR staff, to come up with some recommendations for how to fund the plan in some way, shape, or form. So we have looked at a proposed phased implementation schedule, looking at a 3-phase approach. Again, the commission can decide in conjunction with your staff in a workshop a different way. This was just one way that we had thought. Phase 1 being effective January 1, 2013, look to adjust all employees to the minimum plus a 2%. And you can see your half-year impact of $70,000 for the 2%. The move to minimum half-year impact of $306,000. So your fiscal year 13 impact of $377,000. Phase 2 is going to be to fully fund the other half of the 2%, fully fund that other half of the move to minimum, and then we're going to implement the full funding of the years of service. And again, that's just a half-year impact. So go ahead and fund the years of service. Phase 3 will be implemented on July 1 of the following year. You go ahead and fully fund the years of service adjustment. We would also recommend that you provide a 2% cost of living adjustment. Because remember, you're working now in year 3 on a plan that's almost 4 years old. So we're going to recommend that you adjust based on years of service and based on inflation in that third year. Year 3 implementation cost of $398,000. We've laid it out in a 3-year impact, so you can see it by fiscal year. Total cost of $1.4 million. Any questions before we leave this slide? Again, this is just a recommendation.
You're talking about January 1st, 2013. That's why you put half a year, because it's only half our fiscal year.
That's
so when you say fiscal year 2013, you're talking about what? 2013 is 14?
Next year's budget.
Next year's budget.
Okay.
July, it starts.
July 1.
You're in
Current
it.
budget, actually.
You're in it.
Oh, so fiscal year 2013, that's 12-13, not 13-14.
Okay, that's a little confusing.
Yeah. So you would look to implement your salary adjustments this coming January.
And do these numbers reflect everything included?
Yes, your benefits.
Insurance, Social
Yes.
Security we have to manage?
Yes, sir.
Everything?
Yes, sir.
So if we would just phase in with something similar to this or with this, it would impact the budget we're in now, $377,000.
Yes.
And the budget that will start next July 1, it would affect 634.
Another 600.
Additional.
Addition.
That would be additional.
634, you got
And
it.
77 doesn't go
That would be
away.
almost $1 million in 2 years.
Exactly.
$1.4 million after 3 years, your budget will be $1.4 million higher than it is right
The last year, you'd only have a little $400,000 increase, right?
now. Those are 3 years, you know,
About $1 million dollars in 3 years.
Well, beyond that, the annual adjustments.
Is that one?
No, as I said earlier, this is a living, breathing document. And, your last study was about 10 years out. And as the economy begins to recover, we're all hoping that it recovers faster than it has. We're hoping it won't be as fast as it was, because that's probably. But nonetheless, you need to keep up with the marketplace. So there are a number of different ways to do that. We've written that up in the plans and how to do that, provided some methods to do that. What we would suggest that is, if inflation does begin to pick up, as Stephanie noted in that phase-in, there should be some adjustments in both your pay grades as well as the salaries of the employees, because they need to shift together. If you just shift the pay grade, the employee gets closer to a minimum, but they don't get that same increase.
We had talked about fringe benefits. We had surveyed 9 different categories with 1 to 10 data points in terms of fringe benefits. So there's close to 75 data points related to fringe benefit comparisons with your benchmark communities. Just to give you a general overview, consistent with your survey results, your holiday leave and your annual leave, your sick leave is consistent with the survey average of health insurance in terms of how much you're paying in terms of employee contribution, how much your total rate is, those types of things. They're consistent with the exception of employee-only coverage. But overall, you reflect above average on how much you're paying as a community. Retiree health insurance is consistent with the survey average for amount contributed, above the survey average for length of service needed, which is excellent. Life insurance consistent with your survey average and deferred compensation. Again, in your report, there's about 4 pages of detailed comparisons for your fringe benefits.
A notwithstanding, if you look at just the fringe benefits, the summary of this page would be that we're at or exceed
Yes.
Yes, sir.
other counties.
Absolutely.
Yes. And that's an important area of compensation. Okay, to wrap up our comments, we feel as you work through the report, if you adopt the recommendations, you'll end up with a fair and more equitable compensation of employees in what will be a competitive labor market. We've addressed the issues of internal equity and external market competitiveness, and it is a position where you're not too high in the market, you're not too low in the market, so you're really dealing with the county's fiscal resources responsibly. And you have recognized job changes which have occurred due to job consolidations, and there have been a lot of those. And then finally, it does provide for consistent administration of pay practices across all departments with the information which is included in our report. So we'll be happy to take any more questions that you have and that you might have. And we do apologize for that report being not the report was supposed to be. It will be here Thursday, I can guarantee that.
Questions?
Being on behalf of the I mean, we're, as far as the county employees, during the good times, when they could have went out, and made more money, they did not. They stayed and provided services to the citizens. And of course, that's on the other foot now. So I think we need to remember, though, that the majority of our county employees stayed with the county when they could have got outside in the private world and made a whole lot more money. But they did not. They stayed at home and provided services to our citizens, and I think we all agree we've got some great people. They do a great job. We want to compensate them. We're not agreeing and agreeing here,
But one,
they need to be compensated.
and you mentioned this, but we actually talked about this when we started into this. We've through consolidation of jobs and that kind of thing, we've actually reduced our workforce by 15% since the recession started. So we have 15% less employees that are essentially doing the same work. I guess one thing that comes to my mind when we compare numbers and looking at the statistics, did you compare these jobs with, let's say this, if you took these jobs and put them into these other counties, what the pay scale of other jobs outside private sector jobs are making overall income, I'm saying?
Private sector is not a focus of this study.
I understand.
And we did look primarily at the public sector as comparisons. And so the data you have is reflective of comparisons to the public sector.
That is a factor too. You got larger communities, people in construction or insurance or run hotels tend to make more money in some of those areas than those small communities like ours. That is a factor too.
So when we get the report, I think they'll come back and we'll have a work session at that time. That's the way we're going to do it.
Yeah, I think so. We'll have a chance to talk to John since he got here about this, but what I'd like to do is when you get the report, have a chance to look at it. I'm sure you probably have a lot more questions than what you have right now. And we might be able to get to come back and sit down for a work session when you're not with an agenda for all the other things that you have to do, that you could just concentrate on this one particular issue.
Yeah, because I personally got a lot of questions down through. We'll have more.
We think, and we only work with the public sector, for the public sector. And most of our folks have worked in the public sector. Stephanie's a former finance and human resources director, I'm a former county manager. We know to get this type of information and have a consultant run through it. You can hear it all, but you may not absorb it all. So we're more than happy to come back to the work session.
And the reason I'm asking about private versus public, you guys so far know that folks in the private sector overall are making 15 or 20% less money than they were 5 years ago, or 100% less money than they were. So I think we need to be careful. And I know what you're saying, and I appreciate the data. I think we do need to address it. I think we need to think where we are in this economic cycle.
As we look toward the report, will these counties, when we get the report, will it be, can we look across the chart and see each different county that responded to the survey? And compared to our county?
That would be great.
That would be great.
For certain jobs and everything,
It's pretty extensive. It has to be.
It's an excellent report. Thank you for the work. This is something we've been looking forward to getting.
We've enjoyed working with your staff. Your staff's a good staff, as we said. We're not saying that because we're in public session. We said it to a lot of other communities that we work with. It's been a pleasure to work with y'all. It'll be a pleasure to continue to work with you.
Thank you.
Let's just say one thing, Mr. Chairman. We didn't just go out and find a company called Springstead and say, I'm going to come and do this for us. We actually contract with them through the North Carolina County Commissioners Association as a sponsor for this company, and they're the sponsor of this company. And I'm not doing this to give you a commercial plug, but I'm just let people know. Because this company has done a lot of these classification pay plan studies in a lot of counties, and even, I think even the Different Association.
We did.
Like in every league municipalities as well. So they've got a great deal of respect for being competent and objective in their reporting. And we talked to several of the counties who had experience with them before we recommended the board go with the contract, and we haven't heard of good reports. So I think if you want to get a fair and objective point of view on where you stand, it's probably got a good company to give that to us.
Where you folks out of?
Richmond. Yes, sir.
We have since Sheriff
County Storm.
Not as bad as it was coming across.
Sheriff Holland back here started this whole thing by bringing up his deputy's thing, and he's got a question, and I'm gonna let him ask it.
One thing that when me and you had a discussion in the very beginning, and I appreciate you all coming and doing your studies, was the on-call. Not that you have to go over it tonight, but you said that was an issue that we were going to have to look into. Is that going to be in this report?
We have that in the data, and it's in the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know.
And the other thing that wasn't mentioned, but so they did do this, they gave us a cursory, I call it a cursory view of our staffing analysis, and it's not an end-all, solve-all. You need to put this into place, but it's a good starting point for us looking at how we staff our departments, where our staffing levels are, and where we need to make some adjustments to our resources.
Any other questions?
No.
This is for Commissioner Pay. Commissioner Pay.
Commissioner's pay?
Didn't include that, huh?
We'd like you to survey Buncombe County.
They make it
Just compare us to Buncombe, that's all you need to do.
What was that figure on that commissioner pay?
We make $97,000 a year, they make like $45,000 a year.
With all the compensation.
I had an elected official one time calculate out his number of hours and what he was being paid at the time. He said it came out about a quarter an hour.
Oh, he's doing well.
Did a private sector. Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a safe trip going back home too. Thank you.
We got quite a bit left. We've been meeting for an hour and a half. You need a break?
They can do the old What I need.
We'll get the plan board.
Okay, we'll do that. All right, reports and presentations. We have the planning board.
You wanted to say as liaison on the planning board that I was tickled to death at how well the planning board is working together right now. Tickled Mr. Mason stepping up to the plate in his new position. They are moving along very smoothly, very efficiently. I feel like they're tackling the task at hand to try to manage their review of subdivision ordinance. They're moving through it so quickly that we as commissioners probably will be thinking about their next task. And I would recommend that we start thinking about that at our next office meeting. They've also requested that Chester be available, and I think they're already formed a good list of questions. And I think they've already started submitting on correspondence back and forth. I think Chester's not going to be available for the July planning board meeting, but will be for the March. Matt, if you don't mind, pass that information along to the planning board members. I think I said, do you have anything you want to know?
Got that. Any minutes we're going to talk about? What is that?
Well, the other thing is, and it's on the agenda a little later, about our voluntary agricultural district, and we've asked Mike and Matt to work together.
That's right.
You're probably looking down at 10C.
10C, you know, if we just tie that together, Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be a good idea. Because it's gonna be part, the planning board has a part to play there.
If there's no objection, we'll just move 10C up under 8.
Oh, Big State, I got a question, any ideas of what the next step would be?
I haven't put a lot of thought in. I'm hoping to get with Matt here pretty soon.
I think that'd be good.
We'll have some
Me
recommendations.
and Jimmy, you guys sit down and get your heads together.
And again, if any of y'all have any thoughts or ideas, just pass them along. I'll have the recommendations.
We got them. That would matter.
What's that?
Okay, let's go ahead and do the voluntary agricultural district ordinance amendment. Mr. Mike Freeland.
Matt, we need to call it. We met with y'all, 4 or 5 months ago, and want to revamp the voluntary ag district. Folks appointed board, and we have since met several times, and the current board, voluntary ag district board, came up with this. Actually, they didn't come up with it. This is an amended ordinance for the voluntary ag district that came out of NC State. And as Mr. Jones and I were talking, and Chester, I appreciate all you've done on that. The state is trying to get all these ag districts in the different counties to have basically the same kind of ordinance, and that's what this is. And all that we've really changed in Macon County, and this is the local voluntary ag district board, is well, change the title to the voluntary ag district as opposed to farmland preservation, the same thing. If you go to on page 5, Article 7, well, I'll tell you what. On the top of page 5, Macon County was one thing that we've done a little different than other counties. They've left their district as the whole county. We've got our board set up that we've got representatives that can speak for north, south, east, and west. We basically put a crosshair on Macon County and split it up north, south, east, west. That's a change. And then the big change is Article 7, certification and qualification of farmland. This thing used to be tied to present use value, the tax purposes, 5 acres of cropland, 10 acres of pasture, beef operation. and 20 acres of forestry. This current board wants to drop that down, not the PUBs, they won't affect the tax thing at all. But they want to let folks that have an acre of farmland that's being actively farmed and has been farmed for a minimum of 3 years, they've got to show us proof. They want people that's got an acre to be able to get in on this. And the reason for that was tailgate markets and intensive farming. Folks that maybe farm 1 acre.
If I could interject just a moment, the general statutes used to require meeting those PUVs under the Machinery Act. That part of the statute was repealed a few years ago, which has opened up the opportunity to do what we're talking about here. And theoretically, you could have something a half acre, a quarter acre, or no restriction. But I think what they've settled on is an acre.
And I've included that pamphlet, maybe help you know kind of what we're doing, you know. The voluntary ag district, there's obviously strength in numbers. We want to get the farmers gathered up. According to State Farm Bureau, agriculture in Macon County contributes $9 million annually. So it's, you know, we want to sneak that. We've got Tommy Jenkins on board. We've applied for grants. We've got $7,500 to promote this from the state. Well, it's one of the folks who put out this pamphlet. We got that, and we applied for $10,000 to do a little bit more. Now, questions?
If I could interject again, an observation. What Mike has done is they have taken a model ordinance that has come from the state, and they have tweaked it, if you will, to fit Macon County a little bit better. But what you need to understand is that was a model ordinance that he was talking about changes people made to. You've got an existing ordinance called the Voluntary Farmland Preservation. This model ordinance, you know, candidly, in many areas it tracks that pretty closely, but in other areas there are some changes.
So this would be changing.
It is going to change what you currently have.
Existing ordinance.
Yes. And what I told Jack this morning is, if the board would like, what I could do is highlight those areas where it's changed from the existing ordinance, so that you'll be aware of those going into it and have the opportunity to study it. I think what Michael's going to do tonight is leave this with you, let you start reading it, and with the idea of coming back and discussing it again in August. Is that right? Yeah.
Does that delay you a lot, Mike?
No, that's, we all.
This ain't, it's been 5 months,
Well,
4 or 5 months.
Wheels grind slow, I know that. But no, we'll be all right. We'll not have another voluntary ag district meeting until we get this approved.
But just what you're saying is, we basically do away with the other ordinance. We
Pretty much.
We just scrap it and adopt this.
Well, that's probably too strong, because you'll see when I do this little project, you will see there's a lot of it is almost identical. But then there are some completely new provisions too.
But administratively, would it just, if
you
we
look at all
get
the
this the way we want it, just replace one with the other?
That's exactly what it will do.
Okay, that's.
It'll be a restate here.
I'm not interested in one line in the old ordinance, let's just replace it with
Any changes?
So it would be nice to know what the changes are.
I think you do.
And they can get out of the program.
We're gonna look into that, I think maybe advise.
If I want to raise corn this year on that, next year not decide to build smart wells.
Well, and that is another issue, that's really got mad.
Well, I'd rather see cornfield.
That wasn't what I asked you, but I can like it a lot.
No, if you can get out anytime you want to. When you sign up, you're signing up for 10 years.
Okay, so
But you
restricting them to get out.
No, you can get out anytime you want.
Still look on the inside of this right here.
I ain't ready. than I'm going to.
No, you get out anytime.
Under the requirements of licensure,
I mean, no short answer, I want you to know that, ain't what I like to see out here, I've said clear, looking out there at 37,000 people. You gotta figure out what you're saying.
Oh, I know that. I understand that. But, we see farming as being very important here in the county. And we'd like to keep as much of it as we can, you know. No, I understand what you're saying.
Ronnie, what this says, the agreement may be revoked by the landowner anytime, usually with only a short period of advance notice of 30 days.
Okay.
Mike, I do think it's a great idea to have the full read. But it's probably changing.
Yeah, and like I say, that board's set up where we've got folks in it that can represent every region, so they can go to their business.
How is that? Is it like across here like this?
It's going side of the road.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Because it, you know, you got, well, you don't carry everything's cash, you know.
Yeah,
And then there's Christmas tree.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Days ago, and it looked like there's a lot of land they need to be farming, they ain't doing it.
They really can't raise cabbages anymore.
Well, they got
They got
the
the
clubbers
seeds.
seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of them, they don't need to go down to this road now, it's certain, they wasn't
Going to mountains.
Yeah, it's good. And the wife used to stick a circle from down there, just each load up, and I noticed there wasn't too much going on up
So Chester, where it goes from here, you'll highlight the changes.
there.
I'm going to have to circulate that to the board before the next
North Carolina, Southwest Command Office.
And I do have a question, Jack, about whether is this amending an ordinance or creating a new one? However, do we have to have a public hearing to make those changes?
We've got to look into that issue there may be a requirement.
And we may need to do that at our August meeting. No big deal, y'all.
Yeah.
We have to take public comment.
Well, obviously, if any of y'all have questions, call the office or get up with us, you know, when you're looking at this, if you got a question in the next month, call. I think it's a good thing.
And Mike, thank you for all your work this year on the community garden. It's the biggest and
Boy,
best.
it looks good, doesn't
It's
it?
the biggest and best ever.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
we thank you for all your help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to add one thing, if we don't mind, is that this is actually originated with the Soil Conservation Service and so forth, and maybe I had in the past some input from the Extension Service, I'm not sure. But this is planning in the county as well, which was a good idea from Matt and Jack, plan people who work with planning to be aware of what's going on, because it may not affect the other things that they have in mind. So I think it's a good opportunity for two different agencies to kind of work together for something. So, appreciate y'all doing that. And while I have a moment, I would like to say that Matt is doing a good job as our new planning director. We're glad to have him in that position. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Jack Morgan for bridging the gap between our former director and our new director of planning, and doing what he could do to help the planning board along. And so appreciate what he's done with that, and certainly appreciate Matt. If you didn't know, is wearing more than one hat. He's also keeping up our erosion sedimentation control program, as well as doing his work with planning board. So we appreciate all y'all.
Welcome, Matt. What you do got?
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate what you do.
Yeah. Very much. See you
Yeah,
soon.
call if you got questions.
Very much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
See you, Mike.
Yep. I'll go.
We can, let me say one thing before and we'll take a break, because this ought to come under reports and presentation. This is nothing for action, but just to let you know, we had the opportunity to meet with Representative Duke Power, Fred Alexander. Everybody knows Fred locally. He's this region's representative for, I believe, it's community and government relations. And his boss is a guy named Tim Gause, G-A-U-S-E. And we had the opportunity to meet with him and ask, I went as chairman and asked Commissioner Pepper as vice chairman to go. And we met with Duke, and it was a good meeting. We addressed 3 issues with them. The first being they have a large piece of property. I guess you find that as being off 441 bypass. sort of off Siler Road and off of, Down Mountain. It's a big flat piece of property Duke Power owns, so we just encourage them to work with us, work with our EDC folks, to help do something with that, to help economic development for the area. We told them we'd be willing to work with them in any way, so we started that ball rolling to hopefully get them to do something with that property. Second thing we mentioned, there's what was supposed to be an amphitheater at one time. You remember down off Little Tennessee River. We asked them about that, about the possibility of working with us, maybe either giving that, donating that, or leasing it, or do something with the county so we could possibly turn that into some type of educational exhibit. That was something Jackie sort of mentioned to us, and they were very receptive to that, so that was very positive.
As receptive as it was 4 years ago when we asked for it last time?
And then the last thing was the Nanahatta Lake. Mr. Cuppers, we talked about.
No, we don't need to do that, but we did have some pretty frank discussions on that. I don't like we went right up front to a little bit. Hopefully I'll have a plan together in August.
And that's to help create a swimming area.
It's moving in so many different ways.
So they were receptive, and I think we're the same guys that started the ball rolling and passed a resolution against their rate increase. And we told them that we felt like that was our place to do that, and if they come up with another, we'll probably do it again. So we had very honest. So we had a very honest conversation with them. We were sort of asking to work with us at the same time, saying we're not going to support rate increases. So we just told them that on your behalf as well. But it was a good meeting. I'm glad we met with them, and appreciate Commissioner Peppers going with me to make those votes. All right, you guys want to take a short recess? We'll stretch your legs for about 10 minutes. All right. Ball game start from 10. Let's keep rolling then. Item number 9, this is discussion regarding the pool renovations. I asked Jack to put it back on there just to keep this moving, and I'm going to defer to Commissioner Cuppers, who is heading this project.
I'm gonna tell you what we need first. Jack, if I don't say the right words, you get me on the right words. I'm gonna tell you what we need, then I'm gonna tell you why we need it and what the timeline kind of looks like that we'd love to be able to work to if the board sees fit to proceed with this project. And that's a big if, guys. And I don't want. I'm gonna talk in the positive here for the next few minutes, but I don't want to mislead anybody. Obviously, we still have the ultimate decision at the end, but I think we make that decision at the end based on what I'm gonna tell you. We basically need 2 designs or 2 sets of specs. One for the pool house and one for the pool itself. Okay? We have identified folks that we believe can do that. On the pool side, her name is, hang on a second, Tammy Ellis, and she works for Aqua H2O. And for the cost of $12,500, she will produce us plans and biddable specs, I guess is the best way to say it, Jack. I know that's not a construction term.
Construction documents.
For us layman guys, that's what we're doing. She'll present us with a set of plans and specifications that we can then put out to bid.
Say that again, Jack. She provides us with what?
Construction documents, permitting, and construction administration.
So that's a complete set of plans, information to
Put it out to bid and coordinated construction and reconstruction of the pool.
Just to make you feel a little bit better, is we didn't just look at one person for that. We looked at another pool company that provided those services as part of the package. That one went for $25,000. So we thought that this one was $12,500. So we thought that looked pretty good on the pool side, but we'll need a waiver, obviously, in just a moment from the board for us to proceed there. On the other side,
Is she from here?
she's from South Carolina. You can find me a pool company in Western North Carolina. You know about it, I don't. But
their company specializes in pool design.
Right. That's what she does. She does pool design for them. On the pool house side, we're looking at Mr. Tom Ritter to be able to give us the goods there. We again need the waiver. It's going to be less than 30. We meet the state statutes. So in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to allow us to do that if you feel like the project is something you want to proceed down the road. The timeline that we're kind of sort of looking at, I think we can probably make it, is we'd love to have the specs and whatever the words were you just used. Love to have those by the end of the month. If we can get those by the end of the month, then we can go to bid first part of August. 30 days later, before our September meeting, we can open those bids, and then at the September meeting, with the bids in hand, we should be able to say, yeah, we do want to do this, or no, we don't. Okay, that's kind of where we'd like to go. As an aside, probably tomorrow, I'm going around with Mr. Adams, the rec director. We're going to look at some pools and some things that other pools in the areas have that we're going to take a look at and we'll report back to you on that. That's really where we are, Jack, unless I've left anything out.
I think for a couple if y'all recall back at your meeting on May 31st, you authorized us to go ahead and get this project started as far as preliminary work, and that would involve finding someone who could do the plans, specifications, and construction administration for the pool house part of the project, which we recommended Mr. Ritter, local architect, to do, and somebody to do the same thing on the actual pool itself for actually separating the pool, making it separate kiddie pool, separate entrances, and doing some other things to the big pool over there. So we've checked out the references for the pool consultant. They're very well known and very well respected by not only clients but other construction companies who've done work with them in the past. So we feel like they're confident to do that. We didn't check any references out on the architect. We understand that he's pretty good. He's done some work for us in the back. He's in the audience today, that's why I'm picking at him. But Mr. Ritter does a good job. He's done several projects for the county, and all of them have turned out well. He's well versed on what we're looking at doing at the pool and the pool complex, and has given it quite a bit of thought and has some really good ideas on how the project will work. And so we recommend contract with him now. Ordinarily, under state law, purchase contract law, if you go out for professional consultant services, such as architects, engineers, and so forth, the state recommends that you go to the request for qualifications, pick the most qualified person or firm for the job, and then negotiate the price. There is a waiver the board has used in the past. The contracts for these services are under $30,000. The Board of County Commissioners can elect to waive those requirements and go ahead and work contracts for design and construction services to firms if it's under $30,000 per contract, which both of these are. And so we've asked the county attorney if he would go ahead and put together a couple of resolutions anticipating the board would agree to allow us to go ahead and contract for these services. The board did agree back in May for us to go ahead and start this work and to find somebody to do it and to pay for those contracted services from our contingency. That's already been approved by the board. So
we'll need a reapproval though. That was last budget year.
We'll have to do a reapproval then, but it'd be the same. Yeah, finance director is exactly right. That was the fiscal year that ended June 30th, and so we'd have to redo that again since we're in a new year. But it would come from the same fund, contingency fund. The board's already indicated that's what you'd like to do. We have the folks lined up to get a start on the project. We've got some work to do between now and the time you actually are ready to open bids and award the contract, and that is to see how best to pay for this project. And so we're working on that, whether it'll be paid partially or fully or whatever out of fund balance appropriation or some other type of financing. And so we'll look at that and have that information ready for you well in advance before you're ready to enter into a contract when they might do the construction work. But that's where we are, and I think that kind of brings us up to that. Yeah, Mr. Ritter gave us a proposal, and I think his services are about $6,000. Correct, Tom?
And just as a reminder, we do anticipate at least, that's what we talked about, and I think I just want to remind everybody that in addition to the pool in Franklin, we may put an addendum on to make whatever repairs we need to make to the pool. So I think that's the appropriate thing to do, in my opinion. If we're gonna do, if we're in the pool business, let's do it.
So you're gonna make a motion?
I'm happy to, but I was gonna wait till I saw those.
I just gave the proposed resolutions to the county
We
manager.
have two resolutions, if you like,
Do we need to read them in, or do we?
One, I can just tell you what they say. Basically, if you have one exempting the architectural services arrangement from the statute that the county manager spoke about, given that it's less than $30,000, the General Assembly specifically recognized that on smaller transactions, it was needed to have that authority. And so you would have one that exempts the services for architectural services in connection with the pool house, Macon County Recreation Center. And the other would be to exempt the engineering design services for the actual pool repair at the Macon County Recreation Center.
I'll be happy to make that motion.
and do it, if you need a separate motion.
Do I need a separate one for each one?
You need a separate motion.
Technically, probably.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we approve the waiver as described by the county attorney for the purchase of waiving architectural requirements or the
General statute.
general statutes for Mr. Ritter and the pool house. Is that clear enough?
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Haven. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. And Mr. Chairman, I'd further like to make a motion that we pass a similar waiver request for the pool repairs itself. Contract to be awarded to Aqua H2O.
We have a motion, second by Commissioner Haven. Any discussion?
Are they licensed engineers in North Carolina?
Yeah, they've done quite a few jobs in North Carolina, some huge jobs, including, I think, the Charlotte YMCA job they've done. So they've done quite a few in North Carolina, so they're licensed to operate the state.
Any question? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion
I believe that
passes. We need one.
Chairman of the property, another
Funding.
motion to reappropriate contingency funds to cover these expenses in this year's budget.
I'd like to make the motion to cover the expenses for those two waivers we just passed out of this year's contingency fund instead of last year.
Is that in the amount of $18,000?
In the amount of $18,500.
5 West Main Street.
Franklin, North Carolina.
I'm being checked.
We have a second, seconded by Commissioner Haven. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, that motion.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you for all your work on that.
I just met with the rec committee this morning. They are excited. They are pumped up. So thank you very much.
And I'd like to personally thank Commissioner Cuppers for taking the lead on this. This is a big project and something that's much needed for our county. And I think something we recognize that he is, as our liaison to the rec commission, is taking a leadership role in this. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for your support of the rec committee.
Mr. Ritter will probably have his done tomorrow.
You get to work on that, Tom.
Tonight.
Yeah. We'd love to see it.
Love to see you drawing and stuff. Yeah, love to see it.
Okay. I believe that's all under old business, new business. Mr. Manager, you've got change order number 12 on the
Little Tennessee River Partuga J trunk sewer line project that will never end. The job is finished except for the reuse system, which we negotiated with the state to allow us to modify that system and save quite a bit of money. We had, you read the background information, I'm sure, from the engineers. Most of the additional costs on here was the modifications we had to make to the system at the connection where the force main comes into the gravel flow sewer at the whistle stop area at the Ramsey property. There on Royal Mill Road. That's where most of it came in. Some of it did come in for extra work on the Shaw property, but it was for $25,519.23. This is all grant money. There's no local money involved in this. No additional appropriation to county, no additional appropriation to town. And with this change order, it still leaves us a balance in the project of around $129,000 to complete the rest of it. And hopefully, if we don't have Gary's grading to do this, we might have an opportunity for a local contractor to come in and do the reuse, the piping changeover system that we asked the state to allow us to do. We would encourage them to let us go ahead and do that so we can finish up with Gary's grading and then spend the rest of the proceeds from that grant money here.
Jack, the total available funding, 5,000,008, 10, and then total expenditure today, 5,000,068. That's where you got the one.
That's the difference there.
Yeah, and does that include this?
That includes this change order number 12, which is $25,519.23.
Do we have a date, Mr. Manager, anywhere? Do we have a?
It's in use now as far as the sewer system goes. It's in use, everything from Mill Creek all the way into the sewer plant is available and working right now. The only part that's not online is the reuse system, which basically is running a purple pipe system of the treated water. It's not drinkable, but it's usable for wash downs and so forth. And when that piping is put in, it'll go to the animal shelter. We'll use it to wash down there. It'll go to the environmental services center. We'll use it for watering the plants and so forth around that. We'll go to the landfill operations for washing down their buildings, equipment, machinery, and so forth. And so that's more of a beneficial use than the original plan was, to put in a bunch of spray heads out on the side of the ground and squirt the water out and let it seep in or evaporate. And so we found a better use for that. We met with the state, President McGill Associates. I met with the state leader people, and they allowed us to make that modification. And so what we put in already that goes along with that is still good. This is a different end use of the water that's going to be treated through this process. But for all intents and purposes, the sewer project is 99% complete.
So the moratorium's still on though, like, yeah,
It shouldn't be. That's something that the town will have to take off.
Okay, and so how long will it take to finish this project?
Well, the rest of what we have to do will not take, once we have to get a permit modification from the state. As soon as they give us that permit modification, we'll line the contractor up to do it. The actual work is going to take probably less than 2 or 3 weeks.
Motion for this adjustment.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Tatum, second by Peppers. Any discussion?
So I'm gonna go on my soapbox for a second. I know this is not costing us any more money. I'm gonna vote for this change, but I think it's an absolute shame that you pay a planning engineering company $500,000 and they can't determine the location of culverts, they can't determine the size of certain pipes, they can't determine the location of manholes, and it feels like it's just been incessant. In my opinion,
What do you think, Rick?
What was my opinion before on that?
Transportation, making a good point right there. I think we all looked at that. I thought the same thing. That's a good thing.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Second thing, Mike, I guess you got this, the resolution regarding addition of 457 plan benefit provider.
Yes, sir. Gentlemen, basically, what we're actually asking you to do is to simply allow us to provide an additional option to our employees who might want to put some of their money into a deferred compensation or 457. We currently offer this through a particular provider. To be very frank with you, I am less than pleased with the service that this particular provider has given to clients that they have as our employees. We simply want the opportunity to offer them another option. There is no county money involved. This is not exactly like a 401K where the county is actually putting some money into the employee. This is all their money. But they do have the advantage of having that pre-tax availability. We pull it out of their check and they get.
It's a savings vehicle, goes into a tax deferred
Yes.
Situation, but it's taken out before taxes are
Taken out. Yes, sir.
It's an option for them.
It's strictly an option.
And I would be in favor of this, I think.
And what we need to get the ball rolling, if you will, is a resolution and agreement from the board to enter into an agreement with Prudential for them to offer this benefit.
Okay. That's a motion.
He actually got a resolution, that's
It's in the,
Yeah.
The resolution that's in your packet, it has been slightly modified and sent back to you. There's a little more language that Chester felt like we really needed.
You sent that by email.
Yeah, it was by the second email that came to us.
Right. Okay, your motion, Commissioner Davis, to approve the resolution.
Mike, will you now send out stuff to every employer? Will you try to have a meeting with the employees, or
Basically,
department heads, or?
once we get this all cut, the representative from Prudential will be available to meet with the employees who wish to meet with him, and they can determine what they want to do relative to if they want to start new with them, roll something over from a different plan.
They can take the 401K and roll in
He
it.
can discuss all those options with them.
Who seconded that? Commissioner Hayes. Any discussion regarding the resolution? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. We have already taken care of item C. Moving on to D. Mr. Manager, you have this request for funds from the Economic Development Commission reserve. This is already existing money. You're just asking to be moved from.
Woody Products was at the Incubator Business Development Center for a number of years, and they've recently moved out and relocated, consolidated back at their current plant, and that space is available. And so, after operating in there for a number of years, cutting pipe, oil, grease, dust, etc., the facility really needs a lot of work done on it. And so, we have a potential client that would like to make it available for, but even if we didn't have a potential client, the building needs to be refurbished. We need to go ahead, like the rest of the building, go ahead and clean it, put in heating and air, and we have to do some painting, do some covering on the floor. There's some damage to the dock area that needs to be repaired, replaced. Overhead doors need to be replaced, some other doors need to be replaced, and some infrastructure inside. This is a 7,300 square foot open space. We need to do a little bit of construction work on the inside of that, redo some electrical work in there and so forth. And so, I guess to make a long story short, we feel like we need to go ahead and allocate up to $50,000 from the Economic Development Reserve Fund to use to bring the incubator facility, the Business Development Center, back up to where it needs to be so we can create more jobs out there. We've got a good opportunity right now. We do have several businesses that are located in there. Some of them are celebrating their 1-year anniversary of Giz Town with it money. And so it looks like a success breeds success. And so if we keep this going, I think we can start growing some of our own jobs. And so we need, and there's more than enough money in the Economic Development Reserve Fund to cover this. So it would not take an additional appropriation, but we would have to have an amendment, a budget amendment, to take the money out of the Economic Development Reserve Fund and put it into a line item that we could expend those monies for cleaning, for painting, for the remodeling work and so forth that's going to have to be done in order to make the building usable in that part of it for the clients.
And Tommy, I've not received no comments, no negative comments from anybody on the EDC. I don't know if Commissioner Tate has, or if you have.
No, sir. And that's right, it's something we've got to do regardless if we didn't have a client who was interested, because it's
Too valuable place to
way
work.
valuable space, and we've got to get things started out there, we need to continue it. Thanks for your support.
Motion to approve the request from the county manager.
We have a motion, second by Commissioner Cuppers. Any discussion?
Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Manager, is there any contingency for present renters now where they'll have to repair the facilities and specifications so we don't get into this in the future?
The current tenants that we have out there, we did some remodeling work on one section, one unit, Unit D, I believe it is. And we have a company in there, and I can't recall their name, Tommy, it's
the Medicaid.
Mid-coding, and so y'all appropriated some money, we did some improvements to that before they actually moved in, which was putting in heating in there, and then did some other work, putting down the floor, drop ceiling and so forth in the spaces they're renting now, so, the other area that's being used, Mrs. Green, they don't require any additional work, it was already, a lot of that had already been redone, because it was used at one time as an area for training for the community college, and so we had very little to do with that. So the rest of the building's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I guess my question moreover is we're obviously having to spend a good bit of money out of our coffers, so to speak, to do some repairs that were obviously costs from coming up from Whitley, et cetera. Our present tenants, are there any provisions in the rental terms or agreements that says that they've got to leave the premises? I know one of the properties that I rent, they've got to return them to the way they found them. They've got to pay them.
Mr. Tate, I don't have leases in front of me, but I'm fairly certain, I've double checked it, and probably need it, but fairly certain that we've got some conditions in here that basically state that they need to return it to us in as good or better condition.
I'm going to kind of get that down.
Ordinary, yeah.
I'd be realistic. That's a real
ordinary wear and tear accepted.
Yeah.
But one thing we do need to note is that entire money is not for repairs. Part of that building is not in a heating and air conditioning system. And a good bit of that expenditure will be on heating and air conditioning.
It'll be on renovation.
Yeah, exactly. It'll make it better space, more consistent with what EDC is trying to do out there. Is that right?
Right. What, to be using the startups to draw anybody in there, you've got to provide a compatible space for some projects. And it's hard to ask anybody manufacturing or in any business to work in the conditions that would exist for that 8 year.
So the big difference, I think, the big difference now than what it was, say when Whitley moved in almost 10 years ago, I guess, how many years ago it was, is we have somebody now on board who monitors that on a daily basis and keeps up with the tenants, keeps up with the condition, keeps up with the needs and so forth. And so when something arises, we deal with it immediately. Well, what I found that Mr. Bill mentioned will confirm is we went out there and looked at the building. There's been a lot of abuse, a lot of things that should have been fixed, windows knocked out that weren't replaced, metal damage and so forth that should have been dealt with when that occurred, and we really didn't have a handle on that at the time being county. So I think we have a better way to keep up with it.
That's right. I just want to make sure we do it.
I think Mr. Tate brings up a good point. Excuse me. That we're trying to address that police clear.
It should be, and it
I
may
think it's
already
in the
be.
lease.
It may already be in the lease.
I think it is in the lease.
What's in their lease? Wasn't in Whitley's lease?
I think it may be.
Well, actually, Craig, up to mobile stores, I don't think Whitley even had a lease when they first moved in there, so.
We've done 2 or 3 annual leases with Whitley. I think there may be some.
We have any discussion? All in favor? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you for the job you're doing out there, Tom. And that's the first time in really many years it's being used for what it's supposed to be. I appreciate it.
We got several new businesses out there. I know you're not at liberty to say, but you do have
We got a good prospect.
a good prospect interested in coming in there. Would be a good employer for the area. 10E, designation of voting delegate. This is our North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Conference. This is the August conference, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And which will be held in Raleigh, and I think we're all signed up to go that.
Everyone is.
So we need to designate.
I would recommend the chairman, Mr. Manager, to be our voting delegate.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Who said it?
Who were the voting delegates?
Yeah, yeah, I don't get to sit.
Kevin.
Kevin. That's all that means. The consent agenda is attachment 11. I think you received these in advance too. These are the minutes of our June 12th meeting, budget amendments 1 through 9. 1 through 11 as added by Lori earlier. The tax releases, the tattoo fee review, I think you've seen that. That's to come in line with the state
Recommendations.
on that, and then the monthly ad valorem tax collection report. We can pass this with one motion if you want to, or if anybody wants to pull any of these items out, we can do that. And if not, I would entertain a motion to Commissioner Tate motion, Peppers second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 12. General, if you would flip over, we have a spot available. Board of Adjustment, Tony Potts. This appointment filled the remaining slot of the Board of Adjustment left by Gary Drake, who declined reappointment. This term of appointment is for 3 years. And he did.
This is recommendation from the panel.
Correct. You. He applied, Tony applied. He did the application.
From the town code.
Yes.
So Gary was, the reason he couldn't do it, he's got to make that go around this, okay. Motion to approve, Mr. Potts.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Field, Mr. Tate second. Any discussion? Tony Potts, next position.
Mr. Chairman, I would, on the board that's passing a budget slate on the board, would have to find a replacement to fill his position on the planning board.
You were great. We'll need to advertise that. That's not good. We'll have to have it advertised. Application for, we can vote, yeah. Any other discussion concerning Mr. Potts?
I think Tony, with Tony's experience, not only at the bank, but in other things he's working on, a lot to this position. So we more than just
He's good. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Mike, you get the bill. Okay. That was all I had in open session. We do have a request for a closed session per General Statute 143.318.11A3 to discuss, to consult with an attorney, and also General Statute 143.318.11A4 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other business. So,
and you got one more.
well, actually, I don't think we need to use that. Is that correct?
That was my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I've scratched that one. We don't have to use it. So that would be my recommendation. Move and second, Tate. All in favor of going into closed session, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we don't anticipate any action, Mr. Chairman.
No, we will not have the action. If we do, we'll call you. Or you can stick.
You're welcome to stick
You
around.
stick around.
Thanks. When's the next Howie?
I think they've said today.